All right, everybody, we are live. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome Nicole Powers with me today to have a long discussion about basically trans people in sports, but also just the world in general. So, Nicole, please introduce yourself and tell everybody where they can find you, where they can follow you and support you.
Yeah, pleasure. Pleasure's mine. Thanks for having me, Alan. Your intro to the show is pretty spectacular. I was kind of
We
fist
we
bumping
didn't
along.
we didn't put it together. Like Mark and I didn't put it together. Somebody put it together for us. But thank you
Pretty
very much.
cool. Well, I am Nicole Powers on TikTok and YouTube. People know me as Dream Roulette. Those are my handles there. Instagram and Twitter, it is Nicole E. Powers. I am a former college and professional golfer, and now I am competing in cross country and alpine skiing.
Outstanding, outstanding. So, one of the things that brought me to you, my wife has been a fan of your content forever, and you have a very interesting outlook on men and women sports. Like,
Yeah.
and you view them as a biological, like they should be decided by biology, correct? If I'm assuming.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that the clearer we can make rules and regulations, the easier it is on everybody. So if you're male, you should never, under any circumstances, play in women's sports. And if you're female, you need to abide by all the anti-doping policies that are already put in place in those organizations and go from there.
Do you think that with the larger amount of trans women in women's sports, do you think that women athletes are like being more pushed down to the road of performance enhancing drugs to compete?
I honestly think that athletes still have that athletic integrity to them, whether there is unfair competition going on. I think mostly it's just discouraging and dangerous, obviously at the top of the priority. But it's discouraging mostly for a lot of female athletes to know that they're putting in their absolute best day to day, and it's just not good enough.
Yeah. So when you compete professionally in golf, you competed as a male?
No, I competed in the women's division,
Okay.
which kind of allows me to see both sides of it. I didn't, you're kind of like ushered and forced into this idea that you belong there. I took puberty blockers in high school. Like, I have been transitioning for a long time. You're okay. You belong. No, it took me seeing my own strength up against actual women, and seeing that those differences are just wildly drastic.
Yeah. I mean, and it sounds to me like you went with the best of intentions. And about that time was like when it was really being pushed, like if you're a trans woman, you belong in women's sports.
Yeah.
And, I, on skill level things that aren't like pool, I can imagine, like it's more of a skill thing. Right. But even then, I wonder about like, we're definitely raised differently. Like we're raised with more of a competitive idea, when we're men. But there's also for things like golf and anything that's on your feet, there's biological inherent differences. My partner Mark, that's normally here, he might even join us in a little bit, but he always talks about how there's the Q angle of the hip, right? The Q angle is where there's the femur and then there's the neck of the femur, and the neck of the femur comes out at a certain angle. And for women, it's about 17 degrees different than men. And it's also one of the reasons why like women are more prone to ACL tears when they play soccer, things like that, because it puts their knees at a valgus position when they go to plant, right? But
these are scientific terms that are well above my head.
Yeah,
that's amazing to know, though. Yeah.
It's an interesting concept because like that's something that can't be changed. And I always run by this, like, there's things that can't be changed. Now, for those in the audience that would agree or disagree, you guys have met me before. I don't care if you agree with me or disagree with me, right? I personally, I know and I'm friends with quite a few trans people, right? And most trans people I've run into personally in my life, they're people that just kind of want to be able to transition because it helps make them feel better with either gender dysphoria or some other aspect of their life. and it is done to just kind of, you want to fit in. Like the whole concept is to transition, right? And you've obviously done a lot of a lot of work to transition to appear as a female. And I wonder when it went like south, because like I personally was not paying attention because it didn't involve me. But when do you think it actually kind of went south, when all the other stuff started getting added to it? Like was there like a time frame? Was there a time frame where you're like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, and I can tell you just a backstory of kind of where I came up and how I transitioned and where I saw that
Please do.
happen.
Yeah, please do.
So in the late 2000s, I was in high school, early 2010s, and I was the only trans kid. I don't believe that's a thing. I think you need to have a fully formed brain. That's another discussion. But I was the only kid in Florida, where I grew up, that were having these thoughts. So my parents, conservative parents, obviously very kind of shocked and didn't know how to handle it. So we had to travel to Canada, to other states, to meet with experts that knew about this. Nowadays, you walk into a classroom and there's a trans club, hosted by whatever green-haired teacher they have that day. But this didn't, like, I was kind of an anomaly, and there is a real thing as gender dysphoria. Like, that is a real thing, and I can tell you from my personal experience, that's something I experienced. But it's not as common as people think it is. It really is. I don't know the number, but it's like a 1 in a million type thing. These kids that are coming up, they do not have gender dysphoria. They have social anxiety, right? So, the way that I transitioned, I didn't meet another trans person until 6-7 years after my initial, like, where would you go? Like, there wasn't, it's not like you had the opportunity to see that. It wasn't all over social media. It wasn't in the classrooms. So yeah, I went to college. I had friends. I was able to interact with them without them really knowing my full backstory until I got to know them and told them. But still in college, I started to there was whispers. There was like, oh, gender identity, and this person is kind of dressing a little bit off, and this was in the late 2000s, now 2018, 2016. Now it's starting to kind of come into play. I see it on Instagram, I see it in social media, but nothing about youth, right? The kids weren't transitioning yet. And then I played professional golf 2018 to 2020, and then I started seeing wild things on social media. And I don't know where that moment was, but it was definitely kind of around COVID, I feel like, where people were maybe left to their own devices and just, I don't know, started formulating ideology that wasn't true and didn't make sense. I wish I knew that moment in time, and maybe that's a better way to combat the future of the movement, which it's not a movement. I mean, but yeah, I don't know where that moment was.
Well, so because I interviewed Blair, and I found that was one of my favorite interviews to ever do, because like the insights kind of like the same as what you're talking about. Like when she transitioned kind of by herself. She did it very publicly. I remember watching one of her first videos about transitioning 10, 12 years ago, something like that. But like what I've also noticed is like, I want to word this so it's like not misconstrued, but like, are a lot of these people aren't like, you wouldn't even consider them trans, that consider themselves trans right now, right?
No, and I'm glad that we're on a platform that I can speak freely, because again, I hold my tongue on TikTok. But I honestly think it's a spectrum issue, right? Like I don't want to say autism. I don't know too much about that, but I think it's it's part of self realization that they're having trouble with, and I do think that it is a social spectrum that a lot of these people have. And we all grew up with kind of nerds and emos and all of those other kind of people, and they had their groups. But now it's like, okay, if we're all kind of feeling weird, I don't know, like let's all band together and have these crazy haircuts and call ourselves trans, and they hijack the shit out of whatever we didn't even start. They just hijacked this thing that was never needing to be a movement and created these lies. They created this hypocrisy that is so damaging to those 1 in a million instances that I talk about, of people that have gender identity disorder. And, I don't know where they want to take it, but they're talking insane about, reclassifying well-known definitions and these infiltrations of spaces. It's disturbing.
I find it quite wild how like almost contradictory the LGBTQ and I have raging ADHD. So when I don't pronounce all the letters, I don't mean insult to anybody. Okay, I just my brain.
I don't know all the letters, honestly.
They keep adding them. I don't know. Like I mean, they keep adding them. So I grew up with LGB, and I'm 53, and I gotta say we had this shit figured out 20 years ago. Like we really did. Like nobody gave a shit. Like
I don't want to be part of any letter, honestly. Like I don't need it. Like I'm just Nicole, and I'm living my life. I don't have any similarities to lesbians or gays, or that's their thing. Like I don't know where and when they added it, but don't need to.
Yeah, because it gets so strange. Like I'm a trans woman, but I'm also a lesbian. Like so.
No, you're not. Yeah.
So it's like I'm like, so you're a man, like you're a male that's interested in women, and you're dressed like a woman. Like, and like here's my thing. I don't necessarily have any. I have no issues with any of this. Right? It's when it's almost like forced, because it's weird to me how we've reached a stage in society where obviously like social justice warriors use this as a platform to try to gain power, because their power came from basically ostracizing people that didn't follow along. Like you're being mean for not respecting pronouns. Like here's the thing. I grew up with like Boy George and George Michaels and like gay and cross-dressing and we used to call them transsexuals instead instead of transgender.
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh my God, Rocky! Like all like it was. This was all solved. Like all of these things are in our culture that are historically seen as positives and very popular. All like how do people think they got popular? You know what I mean? Like it had been fully accepted into society, and it's kind of reared up not too long ago. And a huge thing was the pronoun thing.
And what's more disturbing is there's a more sinister backstory behind those people that we see, and it stems from a sexual deviancy, and that's what people don't really discuss. That there are, I don't know the exact term, and I was actually educated on this from social media, like autogenephiliac or something like that, where these people, this is their fetish, is to dress as women and be perceived as women. But a trans person, that's not like I didn't have sexual fetishes at 14 and 15 years old or 4 or 5 years old growing up. Like this was just a real disorder that was happening within me. So when you see a grown man of 40s, 50s, that is, a grown man that is demanding that you call him a woman and demanding that he can undress in front of little girls in changing rooms, that is deviance. That is a very dangerous behavior, and it needs to be stopped. And if it has to happen at the backs of actual trans people, that freaking sucks, right? But if that's what has to happen, I'm on board of using a private restroom the rest of my life, as long as I don't see that shit ever again.
That's awesome of you, because that's the biggest thing. Like there was this huge push. Like there was these like guys with like more stubble than I have on my face saying I'm a trans woman and I'm going to use whatever bathroom I want. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, man, like I don't want to go to jail because like if my wife walks in there and your 200-pound, 6-foot tall, bearded ass tries to walk in behind her, I am like obligated to stop you, you know, like, and it's,
but you can't put it, you can't put your hand on his chest either, because that's, what is that?
Sexual assault.
Yeah.
It's wild. Right. But I wish we could, I think that the attention of being drawn to it fucks shit up for people like you and Blair and Bucky. You know, like I mean, like
yeah.
people that are actually transsexuals, that actually have gender dysphoria, that actually have the way Blair described it is that she has a mental illness that, you know, as she presents as a woman, it is like what is needed for her to function in life. And I mean, I think that that's what very well put for a lot of people. Like it's like it's weird how this can't be a thing for some people, but like people will go to incredible lengths to make sure that they like don't look like they're aging or whatever. Like appearance is obviously, how you present is obviously a huge thing in our society, right?
Yeah.
Like for goodness sakes, there's things like Botox, lip fillers, which are all being shown to be very bad for people, right? But somehow like this is a thing.
I don't think the process of transitioning is necessarily healthy.
No,
but yeah, I mean,
well, I mean, at the same time, that's where it comes like a weighing out, like mental health from gender dysphoria, what you physically do to your body, right? Yeah. I mean, of course, like the androgynous hormones that you're probably on, like your body's not meant to have it in those, you know, so that's why blood work's important, all that stuff too, right?
Your body's not meant to have Coca-Cola either, you know. I mean, like,
yeah,
it's
exactly. I was just about to say that. Like, there's lots of things we do, right?
Yeah.
So onto like a real quick different thing, and I think this is important for people to understand. Like, you seem not only well adjusted about this, but at the same time, like you almost seem like an advocate for like for women's rights about all this stuff, right? What has the treatment been towards you from other women, like biological women?
Amazing. I mean, and I couldn't think of a better movement to be a part of than to actually, you know, restore what womanhood is. And it's unfortunate that it's not coming from a woman, right? But I think that, you know, historically, men and males have been protectors of women. And I am a male. And although I'm a trans woman, you know, this little part with women's sports and me competing just with men, just for that transparency and yeah, I mean, the support that I receive from mothers and from female athletes and grandmothers of girls competing in sports is astounding. You know, I implore anyone to pour through my comment section. There is a lot of love there. But behind the scenes, the DMs I get from the left and people trying to further the movement are dangerous. Like, people have tracked down my family's address and sent them letters. I mean, it's like, it's disturbing the lengths that people will go in order to further this deviant movement.
It's wild. It's so wild because, like, I mean, it's wild how this actually becomes political. Like in our world today, everything seems to become political, right?
Yeah.
But it's almost this. It's almost like weaponized mental illness, because it's not even about transsexuals. It's literally about like non-binary, for instance. Like, they push this shit so hard. To me, the concept of non-binary is transphobic.
I don't know what it is, honestly. Like, you know, you say you're neither a man or a woman. What does that mean?
Right. Exactly.
I don't know. Like, I don't know what that means.
I'm sure there's like, I mean, because there are like biological, like 1 in every like 10 million people have both sexual organs, right?
Yeah. And Iman Khalif from the Olympics is not one of those people.
No,
that is a male. Like, that is not a hermaphrodite or, you know, that anomaly you're talking about.
No, that's a male, and that's where it's just like this huge letdown, because like women's sports were like, it's like I what I find weird is that like the like liberal white women that are supporting like, well, trans women are women, like when they went through that
they're not athletes though, Alan. Those
yeah,
liberal
right.
white women have never done a sport in their life. They don't know what it means to compete against women, and much less men who will crush your skull in with a freaking volleyball. They don't know what that's like. Yeah.
No. I encourage everybody to go follow Nicole because your TikTok is like super telling. The comments are awesome too. Like I was happy to see you got like a lot of good comments too. But your one video, you want to walk me through it and I don't golf, so you're gonna have to walk people through this. But
well, you do something. How do you get those muscles?
I do fitness for a living. So,
okay.
Like I mean
no sports,
I lift weights and I run and I do all those things. I was an athlete when I was younger. I was a track star and it sounds weird to say track, but I was a state champion pole vaulter and stuff like that. So
that's awesome.
But I've always been into fitness. But golf has just been something that the ADHD would not allow. So, like,
understood.
It did not do well. I love the driving range, of course, because that's all physics and stuff like that. I think it's neat.
Yeah.
But you show yourself like hit it 50%, hitting to where about like where the professional women would hit, and then you crank one up at 100% for you, and you go about another 100 yards past it. You want to walk everybody through what you were trying to show there?
Yeah. So when I did play professional golf in the women's division, it was 100% a belonging thing for me. Yeah, I was a great golfer, and at a professional level for that of women. But when you play in sports, there is a sense of belonging that happens. But when you get to that professional level, you're just at it for money. But anyways, I joined a very developmental tour in Orlando and toured around the Southeast, and I would purposefully hit balls everywhere around 60-70% of what my full capacity was, because you don't want these girls looking around like, what the heck is she doing? Like, she is smashing this thing. So that video was to show this is what I did when I played women's professional golf. It was half of what I'm actually capable of, but this is what I can do, and this is without going through a full male puberty. This is with taking hormones for a long time, for kind of fully transitioning, as they say. And I'm still driving it longer than there's not one single woman who can drive it as long as I can on a professional women's golf tour in the world. Okay, I'm hitting over 300 yards. 300 yards. There is not Lexi Thompson, which is like a beast of a professional golfer. Can't come close to that. Hitting at 285, 290. And these are the best in the world.
Right. And so you're going to show, I think Zuby did something like that too, where like he walked in one day and he was like, if we can just claim gender, he was like, I'm going to set the Great Britain deadlift record. And he walked in and did his warm-up rep basically and did it. Right. Wow. And I found yours to be very similar to that, where it's like, you're trying to show the differential, where that doesn't get shown in our society enough. It's like a lot of this is like swimming, like the swimming, the Leah Thomas from swimming. And I hope this doesn't offend you, but I'm going to call him a him. Because I believe that is a man. So, but I have this thing.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, and I have this thing, like obviously raging ADHD, and I have this thing where like I will try my best, but I'm going to normally refer to people as they present you. Like I've referred to you as her and she because you present as a woman to me, and that to me is what it is. But like if I misgender somebody, just let me know, and it's like, okay, I'll try. No. But like it is an automated thing with somebody that has ADHD. You're going to have to give me a break because shit slips out of my mind.
We have other things to think about besides trying to retrain our brain to.
I know. I'm just not going to do it, man. Like, I honestly don't think I can. But so we see him swimming and he's obviously crushing everybody. Well, all right. Like, I mean, that's one thing, but were the things you talked about earlier, like field hockey, soccer, boxing, MMA, like these are life threatening situations for biological
Well,
women.
who would have thought volleyball would be life-threatening? But it is.
Right. It is.
Yeah.
And it's so odd to me that, like, you know, we're trying to like force trans women into women's sports. And I think you do a great job of this, and Blair has even said this. To be a trans woman, the first thing that should be like a requirement is to respect women. You know what I mean? Like, and it just seems that was forgotten about, and they expected women to respect trans women more than the other way around. Like, especially when it came to like the day spas and stuff like that. That stuff was ridiculous. Like,
that's nuts. I could never think about like going into a locker room, getting fully undressed, and still having my male parts, and like that's nuts. Like,
yeah.
That's crazy.
They used to just arrest people like for that. Like, I don't know how that stopped, but they used to just arrest people. And you know, while it's this intense thing in society where it seems like especially the left grabs a hold of these concepts and they bastardize them. Like they did it with BLM, Black Lives Matter. It's got a good concept. We don't want black people getting killed in the street, right? The Pride movement. I was like around for the inception of Pride, almost. Like I wasn't involved, of course, but I saw it, and it's like, you know what? Good for you. Like, I see no problem if, like, you know, you want to get married. We should have this. I don't know why it took so long. I mean, shit, Barack Obama was even against it when he first took office. It's wild, right?
Wait, is Barack Obama married to a man, though?
I'm going to be honest.
I'm just like, now that I can say whatever I want on this thing.
Oh yeah, say whatever you want. Yeah.
Okay.
My thing is I don't know, but I will say this.
I'm just
Michelle Obama. Well, Michelle Obama is about my age, and I am an athletic, a very athletic male. Like I go about 185 pounds, 5'9", and I have genetically very good shoulders. Like I have broad shoulders. They're shaped very well, and her fucking shoulders are better than mine. That's all I got. Like, you know, so it's like, I'm just it makes me go, I don't know. Like and I'm normally pretty good about that, but I don't know, because one, like I talk to people like you, and I'm friends with Blair. Like passing does not mean that you're not a biological male, right? Like,
yeah, it just means
right. And the arm, like she rocks like 16.5-inch arms or 17-inch arms. Like she's got big arms and everything like that. Like, so I don't know. I really don't. I don't care either, because like the only reason why I would care is like why do we have this like lifelong lie? You know, like.
Well, I don't know. Like, you know, I haven't watched all your shows. Like, do you jump into like the conspiracies of things?
You know, here's my thought on conspiracies. First of all, conspiracy theorist was a term created by the CIA to stop people from talking about them killing Kennedy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. I examine all data. Like, I think all data is good. It's the thing like where, you know, in the past 4 years, we've seen like the difference between the truth and a conspiracy theory is 6 months. You know, like it's really, I mean, I was one of the very first advocates, like saying like, hey, COVID's a cold, everybody needs to calm down. And it was just like, once you unpeel it, that, and I was a healthcare executive for a while too, and I saw how the health system works. And I've gotten called a conspiracy theorist for years for saying that like the system is set up for us to be fat, sick, dependent, and weak. You know, like,
well, that's the only way they make money. And like, and going back to the transness of it all, a trans kid is a freaking golden ticket for the pharmaceutical companies. They're lifelong patients, like starting at 14, 15. But that's great to hear. You know, like, other than not being insane, another reason why Trump gained my vote was Bobby Kennedy. Like, I really feel like he is going to make some concrete steps to make America healthy, and I love that. But let's get back on topic.
Well, that's,
yes.
He's one of the reasons why I was thinking about voting for Kennedy if he would have won the Democratic nomination. Just to tell you the truth, like I'm an independent voter. I voted for Trump.
He's a great dude.
I don't align with everybody all the way in anything, and I think that most people don't.
Yeah.
But I'm not a huge fan of how he is about like about climate change, because I think climate change is a hoax. I'm like, carbon is in our atmosphere for a reason. If we have too much carbon, we plant more trees. We don't try to block out the sun like Bill Gates wants to do. It's wild. But you know, I think he'll make healthcare a lot more accessible and stuff like that. It's weird how people are thinking like gay people aren't going to have the right to marry or stay married and anything. Like it's like the brainwashing's gotten crazy on the left.
Yeah, you know, I've had friends call me and like are having absolute meltdowns because I still have trans friends that I met along the way, and they don't agree with me at all about pretty much anything, but we're still friends. And they're like, yeah, they're like, oh, my therapist is telling me I should become a man again. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, did he come after you during his first 4 years? No. Okay. It's not going to happen now. Relax. Like, don't buy into this insanity.
Yeah, it's total nuts. But
yeah.
You were talking conspiracy theories. So what conspiracy theories are in the trans world?
Well, I mean, the ones that I believe are that you become the opposite sex after taking hormones. That's a conspiracy theory that they're believing. There are no conspiracies in the trans world that these, gender ideologists are believing, other than they think that the world is out to get them. But for me, it's everything that they spew is lies. So to me, that becomes,
Yes, absolutely. It's weird how like we get called conspiracy theories for so many things, but then they'll say like, the hormones change you into an actual woman. Like
they don't. Yeah.
Well, there's so like, it's a different scenario. I talk about this all the time, right? Like you're biological male and you started transitioning when you were like 15, right? Somewhere in there.
Yeah. Yep.
So my wife, when she was 15 years old, was like 4 feet, like 5 inches tall, right? She probably weighed like 75 pounds, right?
Okay.
My wife is a small little person, right? She's like 5'2", 5'1.5", and she's a yoga instructor. She's a tiny woman, right? There's no way that anybody that was born a male can understand what she went through being a woman into her early teens, being that diminutive. You know what I mean? Like, it's a matter of like safety and everything like that. Like it's a different scenario. Like I've never once thought about like, wow, I got to be careful in this room with these people because I'm, I got to watch physically for myself. Right. But for a young woman, it's different. And I just think that it's a weird thing that disrespects you and other transsexuals, where they're like, they basically make it seem like the road to being a woman or being a man is just about the hormones, which is just ridiculous, because there's a lifelong understood experience that is different for men, women, trans men, and trans women. Like, I mean, like there's different experiences for all 4 of those categories, right? Because I could never understand what you went through. Like I could never understand it, right? Because I didn't go through it. And it's not like it was like a weekend that went awry or a great week one time. Like you had, I'm sure, very positive things that I can't possibly understand.
It's just, it's just been weekend at Bernie's for the last 15 years. That's it.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I mean, that's obviously right. Like I would never understand. And I've made a video about this that like, I know nothing about what it means to be a woman. Right. Like, because what it means to be a woman is internal and it starts with how you were born. I know what it means to present socially as a woman, but when it comes to actually womanhood, there is no man or male that could ever put their 2 cents in. Not at all.
Right. And I think when we just generalize it, like when the movement itself generalizes it, I think it robs people of not only their identity, but it robs them of, their story. And I think that that's really tragic. I think that that's more transphobic than anything else, right? Because you have like, for you to present as a woman, it's a much different scenario. Women aren't going to like biological women are not going to have to go through that you had to go through to present as a woman, right? Or at least most of the time, you know? And I wonder when we can like hopefully this movement will and has calmed down. I think that the left is going to start co-opting just like women's movements now. I don't know if you noticed on TikTok, but they're like the 4B movement thing, that they're hijacking that now.
Well, you know what's interesting is I saw a trans creator have this 4B movement on their profile, and I said, I didn't even know what it was until like yesterday. But apparently it means like distancing yourself or something from every man who voted Trump. Is that right?
So no, and that's what they want you to. That's what they want you to think. And I'm glad we're talking about this because this is actually an important thing because this is so against women. It's amazing. The 4B movement started in Korea. Okay, and the 4Bs are Korean words that I can't pronounce. Right.
Okay.
And it was basically the men in Korea were just treating them like shit. So they just kind of, like they pulled back away from men. And it's like the words make up 4Bs, right?
But they're Korean words. Okay.
Yeah, they're Korean words.
Okay.
Well, of course, I mean, stuff like that catches on because, men acting a fool and women acting a fool are not like just inherent to one nation. We've got asshole men and asshole women in every country in the world, right? So it catches on in America and the UK where women are opting to be celibate, like pull away from men, work on their lives. And I think the concept is like, it's almost a return to like super traditional values where it's like, if a man is going to be in their life, they need to like show them that they want them to be in their life. They have to court them, that sort of thing. Right. And all of a sudden overnight, and to me, not necessarily a bad movement. It's a bad sign that men and women aren't getting along, especially in a world where population collapse is a real threat. But I do think that it's like, it was intended to be like, it's just like, we're going to do our own thing. Right now they're co-opting it to, well, you voted for Trump, so we're going to withhold sex and shave our heads. And I'm just like, can the left just one time not destroy a well-meaning social movement? Like just one fucking time. Can you guys not hijack something that is well-intended for the target audience and fuck it all the way up? Like, I mean, it's so bad. BLM, Pride, the trans movement, even drag queens, because drag queens is different than trans. A lot of people don't think it is, but it's different. Like they've screwed up all of these things, and now they're going on to this 4B movement, and they're literally like, I'm sorry, but like, you do realize when people lose their mind, when we used to have insane asylums, you know what they would do with women when they would put them in insane asylums? The first thing that they would do?
No.
Shave their head. One,
wow.
that way there's no care, and two, like no hair care. And two, oftentimes back in the day when we had insane asylums, they would be putting like they would be doing horrible things, right?
Wow. Okay.
So, but that's what these women are doing right now. They're freaking out online, and then they're shaving their head. It's so strange, right?
Yeah, I really appreciate you clearing, because I think it's a very trending hashtag to include if you're a crazy liberal now. So I had no idea what it was. Thank you for that. But I feel like there is going to be a sort of knee-jerk reaction from the trans ideologists to Trump getting elected. And that's what I'm worried about most, is that there is going to be some sort of push for, last minute ultra inclusion or bust or something like that. Like, that's what I'm worried about, is that they're like stewing over what are we going to do to make ourselves known even more. That's what I'm worried about, is that there is something else coming.
My wife and I talk about this a lot. It's too quiet right now. Like it's like, to me, it's too quiet. Like, they accepted this too easily. Now, there's two reasons why I think they accepted the results so easily. One is that they realized that they just got waylaid, and if they deny it, they can't. They accused Trump of denying it for years, so it's a hard spot for the BM. And or two, with 16 million less votes this year, like
where did the votes go? Yeah, I don't know.
So I mean, they obviously like that opens up a very serious credibility issue, I would argue, for the 2020 election that I'm sure is not going to go unnoticed. And I think that they're being quiet about that. I do think, however, that they're doing their normal thing. And instead of the government saying something like they're pushing special interest groups like this 4B movement. And like you said, there's a possibility the trans movement doing a huge push, which is just so weird to me because like, I don't understand, like, as far I'm an independent. I voted Republican the last 2 times. And the reason being is I'm not stupid. Okay. Like, but at the same time, I definitely voted this time because it's like voting for 5 presidents. It really is. I mean, you get RFK, JD Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, I'd vote for any of them for president. Elon, I'd vote for, except I wouldn't vote for Elon for president, but I'd vote for everybody else.
Well, he can't be president. He's South African.
But not only, no offense either to Elon about that, but like, I understand his kind of like ADHD-ish type thing. We probably shouldn't be president. Like people like us, like, because like my brain just jumps to different things all the time. And that's not what a president should be doing. Right.
No,
but I do think that there's something brewing, like they're not going to just accept the loss, especially when you realize how much is at stake for this loss. Like RFK could literally cost pharma, food, and mainstream media trillions of dollars a year if he does what he's supposed to do. And
so what do you think is happening behind the scenes?
I do think that they're going to try to still imprison Trump and then declare he's not eligible because he's in jail.
But doesn't he already start to have that presidential immunity in regards to like not being incarcerated, like as president-elect, or not till he's sworn in?
Presidential immunity only carries for official acts, right?
Okay.
So like they're trying to get him on these things from beforehand, and they don't care about it being correct. They're witch hunts. I mean, but I think they're either depending upon that. I would be terrified of more assassination attempts if I was all them. They should be. I hope they're being guarded by Terminators, like for real, like for the actual movie. I hope they're being guarded by Terminators.
It looks like you need to be guarding him. You're jacked. You should. You should be a Secret Service.
It's just the camera angle. I'm not that big. Mark, my business partner Mark is much bigger than me. But I think that the things to watch for are those very things. Like they're more afraid, and this is, people don't realize this, they're more afraid of Bobby Kennedy than they are of Trump.
Yeah, because he has a legitimate vendetta that is going on the past 60 years. Like, I mean, they've screwed his family. Like,
absolutely.
He has it out against all of that deep state shit.
Well,
but yeah,
and to like whether it's out against them for that or not, like, it's what he's openly promising is what's kind of like, I almost wish they would just do it and not say anything about it. Because what he's openly promising, the most powerful companies in the world, this will in a impactful way affect their bottom line. Like BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, all of these companies, they're the ones that own pharma, and they're the ones that own big food. And he's talking about yanking trillions of dollars away from them and narrative control. Because if he makes it illegal for pharmaceutical ads to advertise on mainstream media,
I love that. I'm tired of those freaking jingles in my head.
Oh, me too. I'm very tired of it, and I'm all for it. But what people don't understand is that ends CNN and MSNBC and likely Fox News. It ends them. Like.
Do you think there's a possibility that they're trying to get to him and like pay him off before he gets there? Like, could he be
absolutely bought? Could he be bought? I doubt he can be bought. I doubt he can be bought. Like he would have. They would have already bought him if he could be bought. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I think at some point in time, like again, I hope he's being guarded by Terminators, and I mean like having his food tested and everything. No shit, because it's trillions of dollars. There's people that will whack somebody for $20 in Chicago. You know what I mean? Like it's trillions of dollars a year, and the biggest thing is it effectively like either removes or makes it extremely hard for them to regain that money, because they lose complete narrative control. That's why the deep state is probably freaking out too, because if Pfizer money, if like pharmaceutical money can't be used to control the narrative of all the mainstream media, and they would just report stuff that happens without financial interest from big food and big pharma.
Yeah.
it's not going to be the same narrative. Like, I mean, think about the pandemic. Like, you weren't allowed to say anything even remotely negative about the vaccine. Like, I mean, you weren't, that it didn't appear anywhere. I remember seeing an article, like the very first article that I thought was somebody died of like a COVID reaction or a vaccine reaction, right?
Yeah.
And because up until then, anytime anybody died, it was COVID this, COVID that, COVID this. It didn't matter, right? But all of a sudden, this person died.
Accident. Yeah.
Yeah. All of a sudden, this person died, and not COVID, died of mysterious circumstances, died suddenly, just fell out, right? But COVID wasn't mentioned, and the vaccine wasn't mentioned anywhere in the article. I'm like, okay, so we're saying that it wouldn't even be mentioned, and it's narrative control, and Bobby Kennedy stands to take that away. The thing that I also find interesting is that Bobby Kennedy is also they're talking about Thomas Massey to lead the USDA. So it's like a complete, like literally overhaul, you know? And
yeah.
I don't think that they're going to take this sitting quietly. I do think that they might try some false flags when it comes to like using trans people or using this movement. I mean, they're working these liberal women into a frenzy. They're shaving their heads. They're losing their minds. I mean, it's like, I posted like 20 or 30 of these videos yesterday on X of these people just melting down.
I like to consume it because it's funny, but like you said, there is something deeper going on behind all that. Yeah.
It's like a mass psychosis, you know?
Yeah,
like,
it is. It's like a war of the worlds type situation.
And it's like we totally live in two different worlds, right? There's the world where, you know, a guy that has a beard like mine can put on a wig and go into a Planet Fitness restroom and shave, get changed in front of women and little girls, and everybody stands up for that person instead. And then there's the world that like you and I are from, where that's unfucking acceptable. And you know, like the first thing, we should respect women's spaces, right? And it goes to show how bad it was with the election. These people were stunned. Like, they're stunned. There was people on TikTok the night before saying that Kamala Harris was going to run away with it. Like, to me that means you don't watch anything but like CNN
I saw
or
that,
MSNBC.
You know, I saw stuff. Kamala Harris would win Florida, would win all 7 swing states, and I'm thinking, that's more than hopium that you're doing, because that is just misinformation to its finest, and it creates that bigger letdown in this big. And again, it is too quiet right now. But maybe we can be positive, and maybe I don't know. Maybe something good is coming.
I'm going to be hopeful, but I'm very like I refuse to believe that they're just going to sit and take it. Now they may even get it to the point where it's through the inauguration and he's in and all this stuff, and then something else happens. Like, they're going to, at the very least, people should expect another pandemic of some kind. At the very least, you know.
Well, there was monkeys escaped from a zoo today, and now it's going to
be. I saw my wife was like, so. Have you heard of? I'm sitting there. I'm reading. I read studies every day, and I'm reading a study. And she's like, "So, did you hear about the monkeys escaping?" And I'm like, my brain just like stripped its transmission, switching gears. Like, what? Yeah. So those of you that aren't unaware what Nicole's talking about 40 monkeys from a biological testing facility escaped by Beaufort, South Carolina. For those of you that don't know where Beaufort, South Carolina is, that's literally right next to Parris Island. So like the military boot camp area. The Marine
but
Corps
these weren't just normal monkeys, though, Alan. I heard that this was from like a lab, like that they were doing like I don't know. This isn't like a zoo.
Yeah, it's Alpha something lab or something like that. Like the name is Alpha something. I'm just like, come on. Like I wanted a solid week in the 2020s where I didn't say what the fuck out loud. You know, just to myself, like, you know, I can't even imagine like a whole week in the last 4 years where I haven't said what the fuck out loud to myself, you know, like without even thinking about it. But I find that to be weird. I do think that they're planning something though. It's way too quiet. And by I do mean the deep state. And if you don't believe that the deep state exists, you've not been paying attention. Like it's
if
weird
you
how
like people who don't go on X don't realize like truth like that.
yeah.
As soon as I started using X, I was like, wait, that's what's going on with these celebrities. They had this photo in there. Did you see the thing with Jamie Lee Curtis? Like there is some disturbing things that actually happen in our world that you would never get from Instagram, Facebook, you know, TikTok.
Yeah, you can't get them Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. They'll never talk about these things on the news. I still think if it wasn't for TikTok and X, I don't think they would have acted on Diddy. I really don't. Well, maybe because maybe because like a lot of them, I think they needed the endorsements because a lot of the Diddy party members endorsed Kamala.
That is, I've never heard that take. That's a great take. They needed J-Lo, Mark Cuban, all of that. I've never heard that take. You should talk more about that. That's a great take.
Well, I mean, it's if you look at it like how you have rich and powerful people that all owe you that they can't say no, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all the way through like Beyonce and all of them, you know, like shit, J-Lo was married to Diddy for when he first started this shit. Like, I'm sorry, but like,
yeah, we've seen the photos. Like, she's very familiar with the parties.
But and that's also the thing. What I find to be weird, and I know this is going to be this sounds a little conspiratorial, so everybody chill. But so we have Epstein selling children to rich and powerful, famous actors, politicians, business people, right?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, anybody that believes that that's the only island that shit happens on in the world, you people are not paying attention at all. These people are sick individuals. They're deviants, right? But after that, it's like, okay, we went through the whole BLM thing. And then when it got to the trans thing and it's like drag queen story hour and, you know, trans kids and all this stuff, right? It's like almost like we're normalizing children being in a sexual conversation, right?
100%.
And then then all of a sudden Diddy comes out and it's like people, the video we've seen means he's horrible, right? And I got to be real. Like these people are like, oh my God, well, he's got video with Leonardo DiCaprio. Like if everybody's consensual and like everybody's adults, use all the baby oil you want. I don't give a shit. I don't fucking care. You know, like I like.
I already kind of assumed that like Hollywood was doing an eyes wide shut thing between themselves, but like, like as soon as like you start talking about these like child sacrifices and stuff like that is when it becomes more than disturbing, but it is like a religion, like a very sinister, evil thing going on in our world. Yeah, I mean, they never wanted to get caught, but now,
obviously,
yeah.
But it just seems like they were almost like there was a big push to normalize like sexual identity, sexual talk, you know, stuff like that with very young people for a couple of years, and now we're here, right? And it's just like I think it's to soften the concept of like, well, I mean, okay, it's horrible, but like no, like we should wood chipper these people. You know what I mean? Like they basically, you know, raping children. We should not allow them to exist in our society. You know, and the normalization of it, like people. There's people talking about like, well, you know, what is the age of consent really? Like, if for anybody that even says those type of things, like should have their hard drive checked, you know, like, but, and
is it 18? Is it 18, right?
Some states it's 16, which is
that's
gross. Okay. Like here's
well, like I know like growing up in Florida, it was like, okay, like I could date a 22-year-old guy and I could be 16. There was like some window, 16 to 34 or something like that.
Which is way too big a window.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, 18 should be like a national standard.
I would agree. I would agree with that because I mean, we don't let them make any other decisions. Why would we let them make? You know, it's weird, you know. But at the same time, I think that's where it's at. Like it's almost like this rush to normalize sexual content with children. So these people, it's like almost like people aren't concerned about it. Like we should be asking for the Epstein list every single day. Like we should be literally be. There is somebody sitting in jail right now for selling children to people in one of our jails. We just but the people that she sold it to have not even been named. We should. It's
well,
just
like
we have
the flight lists, right? Like we have like people, we know who went there, but do we?
Yeah, we really?
Do we have it all? No, no, we don't.
We have what they wanted us to have, and that's a problem.
I don't know if I fed into your ADHD. Do you want to ask more about sports?
Yes, I do. And thank you very much for reeling us back in.
I'm sorry.
So, what's the feedback you get now, like with your videos about like how you're speaking that men should, like, biological men should be in women's sports? Who are the biggest who are the biggest advocates for you, and who gives you the hardest time?
Biggest advocates, women, adult human females. Also, moms of girls playing sports. Those are 100% biggest advocates. Obviously, biggest proponents are trans women and just the left in general that will go to no ends to try and silence me. There's even been Reddit threads that's like, okay, we ride at dawn at 8 o'clock. We're all going to mass report Nicole's TikTok and see if we can get it taken down. There are just insanity going on. But I think the biggest feedback I get, like one of the biggest comments I get, other than thank you, like this is pure based truth, is, oh, let's create a trans league. That's the biggest comment I get.
So what's your thought about that?
No way. I wouldn't compete in it if there was. I mean, I think what we have now is great. There is men's sports and women's sports. If you're an adult human male, you play in men's sports. There's a number of reasons why there shouldn't be a trans league. The first is you're just going to give more opportunities for men to make money. Yeah. Like if they're good athletes, like I'm going to compete in skiing events. If I'm good enough, maybe I'll, get a check out of the deal. If I'm not, then I don't. But if there's a trans league, other than it being sort of a secession, like you're seceding to this idea that trans women are not equal to men. Like we are equal to men. Our bone structures, we are scientifically men. So you're conceding to this gender ideology, maybe not as much as they want you to, but I think that a trans league is just another way to get people to believe that this is like a third sex or something. It's not. It's
there's also the reality that if there was a trans league, it would just be trans women, because
that's what's kind of weird is that, like, trans men, if you take testosterone, it's obviously a performance enhancer, right? Like, I mean, you take, bodybuilders take testosterone, don't they, to like get more jacked? Like it violates the anti-doping policies. So you clearly cannot compete with women. But estrogen, it's a performance de-enhancer, but it's not, like we talked about earlier, there's a lot of different things that can be de-enhancers to your athletic performance. It's not to the extent that they say that it, makes you equal to women.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. Like, okay, so say a biological female starts on testosterone, right? Never going to be as like, don't get me wrong. Of course, there are the female bodybuilders that everybody sees that blast like 4 grams of testosterone a week and shit like that. That are like, they're going to be dead and by the time they're like 35, and it's clearly unhealthy, right? But just to like live for a woman to just like, I do you know who Buck is? Buck Angel?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, Buck's a trans man, and Buck's not an unmuscular person. Like, I mean, he looks like a male, but I can guarantee you, physically, somebody his build, his size, that's an actual biological male, he couldn't compete with, just because it's our bones are harder, more condensed. And just we were talking about the Q angle, like men are built to cut differently, like. We can change direction without blowing our knees out, like much easier and stuff like that. It's just, it would become just a league of trans women who were biologically men, because trans men would have a very hard time competing, you know, like.
Yeah. You know, there's also, you know, I'm sure you've heard of the term like muscle spasm or something like that. Like men have, or muscle twitch or something, like
Fast
men
twitch.
are,
Yeah.
fast twitch muscle thing.
Yeah.
That's something that hormones don't change. That's something that even not going through a full puberty will change. You still have that ability to have those bursts of strength.
And what she's talking about, by the way, for those that don't understand, is that men have more fast twitch muscles than slow twitch. Slow twitch is better for endurance. Women tend to have more slow twitch, and men have more fast twitch. And that's just a difference between explosive power and being able to go. You know, so I don't think a league is the thing. It's weird because, like, if you're not going to do what you do, where it's like, okay, I'm going to compete, and what I get is what I get. If you're not going to do that, you know, the world is about choices, and choices and consequences, right?
Yeah.
If you make the choice to transition to a woman as a male, there are places you're not going to be able to go and things you're not going to be able to do. And it's unfortunate. I understand it might be hard for the individual, but if you are trying to become, trying to transition to appear as a woman, it's just disrespectful to biological women to try to enter their spaces, take scholarships away from them, that sort of thing. I did want to ask you one thing. What do you think about the term cis?
Yeah. Can I just piggyback off of what you just said?
Yes, absolutely.
First?
Absolutely.
So if you can agree to being sterile for the rest of your life, you can agree to not unfairly compete against women in sports. Like you said, there's a million different things that you have to agree that if you're going through a transition, you know, your life is going to change. You can't have it all. The term cis is ridiculous.
Thank you.
It is. It is 100% a slur. Okay. Yeah. It is, the definition of a slur is to depart from the norm of somebody, right? Like to ostracize them, right?
Yes.
So we know what women are and what men are. And to say cis woman or cis man is saying that you're less because you're a man or a woman, like you're othered, right? So because trans women, they say, are women, but women are not women, they are cis women, right? So there's there's this paradigm shift where I get woman, you get cis woman. I'm taking, that game of tug of war. I won that shit. And you have the ostracizing term, not me. And that's what's the most dangerous. It's not trying to redefine women to people who identify as women and all this other bullshit. It's to say you are other, not me. I'm a woman,
right.
not you. You're a cis woman. So it's dangerous. It's dangerous.
That is dangerous.
And it others people who don't need, who should never have been othered. If you're going to be othered, I don't know. Like it's dangerous.
I completely agree. I completely agree.
That's all I have on that.
So we're at about an hour. I'd love to have you back sometime. But I do have, I wanted to, I got some clients I got to talk to. Where can everybody find you? And everybody go support her.
Yeah. So TikTok, YouTube at Dream Roulette, and Instagram and X is Nicole E Powers. So Nicole 2 E's Powers. And thanks a lot, Alan. I would love to come back on. Even with your ADHD, it is a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much.
Well, Mark and I used to actually call the show the ADHD Hour, because like when we would have people on, it's just kind of like a loose conversation. And I really think, and I wanted to thank you for coming on, because I literally, by the way, I contacted Nicole this morning and said, hey, I'd love to have you on the show. So you're fucking down as hell. You're game. I appreciate that. Thanks. But I just want to I want to continue for Mark and I to keep having conversations with people that I think really realistically need to be had in our society. And I also think that it's good to see where people need to see, people from different different categories, I guess, like, such as yourself, or different, I don't even like to call it a minority. I mean, but like, it's good to, like, people are getting to the point where they're associating like people from the LGBT community again as very negative things. Like, the stench of pedophilia got put back on to the whole organization because of the talking to the children and everything like that. Plus, like, I just think that, like, the blue-haired nose ring, person that's one day a woman and one day a man, and they're screaming and yelling online. I think it just does everybody a disservice when we can. I want to make sure people can understand, like, this is not a scary conversation. You're a person, I'm a person. We're just going to sit down and talk, and we need to have more of these conversations.
And people ask me, like, what are your 5-year goals? You should go and talk to schools and do that. I'm like, no, I don't want. Kids already have all these other, role models that they shouldn't have. This is what I want to do, is talk to, free thinkers and adults that can get the message, down. And obviously compete in sports is what I plan to do the next 5 years. But yeah, it's been a real pleasure, Alan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure meeting you. If you need anything, you know where to message me, and I'll reach out to you here in about a week or so. We'll have you back on. Okay.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Outright Bar is back in stock. So here's what we did. As you know, the bar is the best when it's the freshest. So what we did, we ran out of all inventory, and we are bringing them back. 3 to 4 bar flavors at a time, week after week after week after week. If you go to the Outright Bar page on tigerfitness.com, it has the dates listed to when your favorite Outright Bar is back in stock. So go to tigerfitness.com now and stock up on your favorite Outright Bar.